Dynasty Battlefield, where we discuss and debate two players similar in ADP against one another in a battle to determine the better player for your Dynasty squad. Please subscribe to our channel below.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today in today's episode of Dynasty Battlefield. Today I'm going to be your host, Thomas Tyrell. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Battlefield TT. And today I'm going to be joined by my brother,
Jerry Tyrell. You can find me on Twitter as well at Dynasty Battlefield JT.
Awesome, Jerry. Yeah,
Yep.
So basically we're going to be just talking today about some player values, comparing two players that's similar ADP, and hoping to give you guys an edge in your startup drafts. These are obviously dynasty related, so we'll be looking at long-term value as well as immediate impact on your team. So with that, I'll let you introduce today's battle and we'll get started.
All right, yeah. Today's battle is a pretty interesting one. We chose two wide receivers in the same ADP range. We've got Jarvis Landry versus Michael Gallup.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this one. This was a tough one. Without getting, if you want, we'll go ahead and start. I'll start.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Jarvis Landry. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The way we set this up is that one person decides on a player, and then Tommy decided on Jarvis Landry, so I went and looked at the ADP range, and I looked at the ADP range thinking, okay, who would I take in this instance? And I looked, and one thing that clicked with me, Michael Gallup looked very interesting to me, so I'll dig into him and to see if it's somebody that I would take, because honestly, I took a share of him earlier in a startup draft just last month. But doing this research and doing some in-depth research on him, there's some good comparisons here, but Landry has a wealth of experience underneath of him, where Michael Gallup's only just got two years. So I found it very kind of hard to compare them, just because Landry's numbers are fantabulous. So every nook and cranny I looked at to find an angle to be like, hey, this is your number one reason to take Michael Gallup because of this. I was having trouble finding that number one reason on why to take him. So let me give me your initial thoughts. Just your initial thoughts without actually, kind of digging. What was your thought process on taking Landry?
I just noticed there were a handful. Well, it's hard to find an area in the draft where there's only a couple of receivers kind of nested together.
Yes.
So as I was kind of scrolling through the ADP and looking for potential wide receiver battles, I noticed there was generally like 4 to 6 receivers within a 10 pick range, and a lot of spaces, especially in the first 120 picks. So I was looking, and then just those kind of stuck out because they were really close together, and there were a lot of running backs, tight ends, and quarterbacks kind of in this grouping where they were. So I think there was another one receiver in that area, maybe, and I don't remember who that was, but so I was like, okay, I'll take Landry in this position. I think I'm generally going to find myself taking Landry. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I like Gallup's promise, and I think he's been pretty. If you look at the numbers, he's been pretty. He's off to a good start to his career for sure.
Agreed.
And I agree with you. It was kind of difficult to compare them in that sense because Landry does have 6 years in the league. So, but when you look at them, so if you look at them like in a career arc, they may even have the same career arc, right? So, but Landry seems to be, plateauing. He's only going to be 27 years old. Or he's in his 27-year-old season coming up.
Yep.
Or 28-year-old season. I'm sorry. He'll be 28 in November, I believe. Okay. And so he's kind of at his peak. He's starting to plateau. You mentioned his numbers. But my initial thought was picking Landry was that he's the more established of the other receivers that were in that area. So I thought, okay, I would take this guy, and I threw him out at you thinking, I know you're penchant for liking the young up and coming receivers. I thought in that range we might differ because we generally are on the same page quite a bit. And So I thought, okay, I'll go Landry here because we just did a startup recently in the DLF League of Champions, our Champion Series, and we were kind of out of sync on that one quite a bit. And there were a couple players that I probably would have taken, given that in that setup, you're playing in 3-year windows. So we had kind of taken the approach that we would kind of build for the first three years and try to win out of the gate. Mm-hmm. So in that range, I don't remember who we took, but I was definitely very interested in Landry, and I don't think that you were. And we were, so I didn't want to press on in that draft or whatever, but
right.
So that's kind of why it stuck out to me, because I was looking and thinking, okay, I'd like to see what you would take in that range. Like if I gave you go up against Landry, who would stick out to you to say, okay, I'm not sure I'd take Landry, but I would like to see more about this player. And
you're right.
I was a little surprised that you picked Gallup. I thought that was kind of interesting, but.
Well, the reason I picked him is because I did take him in a recent startup, just instinctually, really instinctually. Because I honestly, actually in that startup that I took him in, I think you kind of corralled me back on the correct path. And right around that time, Landry had just been taken. There was another guy, so then I was on the clock. And I was thinking like way young, like immediate rookie, but and I always get this rookie fever around these startups because I want them all. But I think you talked a little bit of sense into me, so I started looking at Gallup. He's he'll be going into his third year. He's obviously increased every year. I think that his ADP is probably has taken a little bit of a hit with the addition of Lamb, but I don't think that's anything to be scared of. Although, like, Lamb is being drafted before Gallup, so like it's all about that upside and how the team's going to use them. But like I said, I dug into these guys and I found some here. Let me give you some positive notes on Gallup. So finished his rookie season, 33 catches, 507 yards, 2 touchdowns. Respectable, not great, but respectable. So his second year, doubled his receptions, 66 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 6 TDs. Quite a big jump from his rookie year, being utilized way more. He was 10th in yards per game. He's the 10th wide receiver in yards per game. 71% success rate versus man, 81% success rate on contested catches. And all this is done out of the X spot, so it's on the weak side of the field. And 10th in yards run per route. This is a PFF stat. Started to dig into. So 10th in yards run per route. Just it's a good statistic versus yards per game.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So another positive stat. We can put a spin on these guys. 66%. TD rate when targeted in the red zone. Hey, that sounds great, right? 66%. However, I started comparing his numbers to Landry's and Landry's historical numbers and Landry's ADP. So Landry, his rookie year, his ADP was roughly around 60. He finished as wide receiver 31. Pretty great return on investment. Next year, 2015, he was his ADP was 27, finished as wide receiver 9. Another great return on investment. 2016, ADP 17, finished 13. 2016 was 17. 2018, So I can go through all the numbers, but statistically, if you invest in Landry, he's going to outperform that investment. So. Right. Fast forward to 2018, drafted ADP 28, finished 12. Now this year, he's being drafted as the wide receiver 33. So the question is, will you still get a return on your investment if you draft in Landry this year? And you probably, odds are you are going to get a good return on investment.
He's a high end wide receiver too. High end.
100%.
Top 15 receiver.
100%. Yards. Let's see. He's finished under 1,000 yards just 3 times, twice not counting his rookie season, and it was just 20, 30 yards shy of 1,000 yards. So he could have been a 5-year 1,000-yard receiver, almost his entire career. Now the question here's my question as I was digging into this and trying to find that angle that I couldn't find to say why Gallup over. So like pretty much the only thing I can come up with is that Gallup does have a return on his ADP just like Landry. First year he didn't get a good return. He was drafted as wide receiver 52, finished as wide receiver 76. That's no good. You lost there. But last year his ADP rose just slightly to 46, and he finished as wide receiver 22. So our question is so the way that I'm looking at it, since I couldn't find that angle in the statistics on why you should choose Gallup, because obviously both of these guys are talented. They are good wide receivers, and Gallup shows tremendous promise. So at 30, Gallup's being drafted at 30. Is he going to outperform Landry this year? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not, because you've got in Dallas, you've got a little bit more options than you have in Cleveland. Cleveland has 2 stud running backs. They've got they just signed Hooper. They've got Njoku, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago that just hadn't quite hit. And they got 2 main wide receivers, and that's Odell Beckham and Landry. Dallas, they're going to spread the ball a little bit more between the wide receivers. Witten just left. Zeke's going to get his carries, and Dak is going to spread the ball around with the addition of CD. So my question to you, and I know do you think?
Are you answering my question? Are you answering the question before
No,
the question? Are you okay?
well,
You're
absolutely.
actually ask it this time? Okay.
I'm building up. I'm just getting there.
Okay.
Do you think beyond this year, let's use the DLF Championship Series. Would you invest in that 3-year window versus maybe a 2-year window, maybe 1-year window for Landry?
Well, that's the essential question.
Yes.
That we're posing here.
Correct.
And I mean, I think I would take Landry. This is where we're talking about the career arcs.
Yep.
I think when you look at, I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with your assessment of the offenses. I think that Dallas is going to be more prone to. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's coming in, but Cobb left, and he left a lot of targets on the table. So I think he's just going to slide right into Cobb's space, and I'm not necessarily sure that they have more weapons than Cleveland does. I think Cleveland has quite a bit. So I think Dallas is going to ride. They're going to, they're outside of Zeke. They're going to ride. I heard a lot of mention of Pollard, but I don't see him as a weapon necessarily. That's going to be counted on.
Right.
And then there's the question of the new offense and how that's going to work for the receivers in Dallas. But to answer your question, I think, after looking at all the stuff, I would take Landry, but it's a lot closer than I thought that it would be originally. The numbers are very comparable at the moment, and I'm going to get, if I take Gallup, I'm going to get him, what's he, 4 years younger? I don't have their ages right in front of me, but
What
is it? So he's 24. So this is his 24-year-old season. This is, like I said, Landry's 28-year-old season. He's got, Landry's got a little bit better draft pedigree. His numbers are a little bit better overall. The targets are there. That's the thing about Landry, that it's, the targets. It's amazing how many targets he gets. He was 10th in the league in targets last year, even on the team with Beckham, right? You expect Beckham to be the guy, but Beckham is the little deeper receiver. And in the little video montage I put together, they use Landry in a lot of different ways. They just want to get the ball in his hands. He's over the middle guy. He's one falling in the middle of the zone. He gets a lot of red zone targets. They use him quite a bit in the red zone, just getting the ball in his hands. And so I know he led. Let me get my sheet out here. I'm sorry. I had
You're good.
this right here and flipped it over. But yeah, so like some of the comparisons were like just red zone targets. He had 35 red zone targets, which was fifth. Yeah, fifth in the league.
Wow.
Yeah, which was pretty good. 7 end zone targets, and then to go, with just 2 100-yard games. So he's not, and yardage wise, they ended up pretty similar. So that's where we're looking at, like average distance of target, where you were mentioning Gallup and the yardage and yards per route is your term. This is the one that you used. Now I was using the average distance of target, the ADOT.
Yeah, I seen that.
Which is Gallup was around 16. I think Landry was around 13. So like they're used in different ways in their offenses, and that's where Gallup makes up the difference in targets and receptions, is that he's going down the field just a little bit further. And then wanted to dig a little bit further, like down the stretch, like what really matters to us in Dynasty or in fantasy football in particular are weeks 13 through 16, right? You're finishing up in week 13. Some people are kicking off their playoffs in week 13.
Yeah.
So just looking at those last 4 games, pretty similar targets. They had 33 for Landry, 30 for Gallup, 22 receptions for Landry, 15 for Gallup. So the catch rates were a little bit different there.
Right.
But Gallup's catch rate's going to be lower because he's going deeper. So that's just they kind of go hand in hand. And then so with those numbers, Gallup still had 25 more yards.
Right.
But the consistency was there for Landry, and like I said, he still ended up PPR number 14, I believe. Gallup ended up 22, I think is what I had seen. So
actually, I think he's 12. He finished 12th.
12. Okay, and so he did finish.
Gallup 22. Correct. Yes.
So that's in a world full of wide receiver 3s with wide receiver 2 potential. It's nice to have Landry because Landry is a solidified wide receiver 2, right? If I'm punting on receiver early in those drafts, especially in the draft that we had where you only needed to have 2 receivers in your starting lineup, Landry is he's a solid guy. He's somebody you can count on. He's never missed a game. He's super durable. He's played 16 games every year of his career. He contributes on special teams. His snap percentage is way up. Like it's much higher than Gallup's.
Yes.
He's a contributor. He's one of those guys that I root for. I don't know if you saw the episode of Hard Knocks when they did the Cleveland Browns. His first year there, but there was a scene where he's basically in the receiver film room, and he's just all about business. Like he is all about business, and basically told them so. He's thank you. That's the way to put it. Consummate professional, and he's just one of those guys that you like to watch play. He's one of the guys that I like to watch play anyway. So
I agree.
And I'm a Cowboy fan, so don't get me wrong. I enjoy watching Gallup. I'm excited for his future, and there's potential that in 2 years the Cowboys cut Amari Cooper, get rid of that contract. Gallup's the number 1 guy. Along with CD Lamb, they bring in another guy. So long term, like sky's the limit for that guy. So, but I think in the short term, in a 3-year window, I just like that. I just like the way that I like the way he's leaned on. I like the way just when I'm watching, he's Baker's looking for him. He's being leaned on as the consummate professional to get the first downs. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but he had a crazy number of first downs for a receiver, and so it's just one of those things. If you're keeping track of that in your league, that that's another plus for Landry. So that's where I stand on this battle. I think for me, I would take Landry only because I'm generally punting on receiver, and I want that guaranteed production. And like you said, with CD Lamb coming in, and there is a little bit of question mark there. I think I would lean Landry here in this battle.
I would, as much as I don't want to agree with you, like with it all being said, I would take Landry as well, because I do like to punt on a little bit of the wide receiver here lately and go for those running backs in those earlier drafts. But if I'm in a position to where those earlier running backs are gone, the wide receiver value's there, I can see taking Gallup, depending on how your team's built. But in a vacuum, Landry's your guy here. Like, as much as I want to try to turn the table on you and, pick my guy over yours, but like,
Right.
I mean, like, just, the consistency on the return of Landry is just hard to beat. That's it, that investment that you're putting your money into, and you're going to get a good return, where Gallup is a little bit more volatile, and you might not get it because he just doesn't have that proven track record. He's a so. But yeah, like,
All right. So on this battle,
yeah,
we are thumbs up Landry.
thumbs up for Landry. Yeah, absolutely.
For Gallup.
Landry. Thumbs up, thumbs down for Gallup. I mean, but like I said, depending on how that team is, by all means, you could take Gallup for that upside, and just that scenario. If that scenario happened that you just mentioned, Cooper's gone, Gallup moves in there as the number one, Lamb the number two. Maybe they bring in a third wide receiver in a couple of years through the draft or free agency or what have you. But yeah. Yeah, I think Landry is the way to go, man. That was a good battle. I think that was a good battle.
That was a good battle. It's a tough battle. Like I said, I don't think you can go wrong in this battle. It was tight, a lot tighter than I thought, but it was definitely a good battle. This, tell us what you think about the battle. Comment below. What are your thoughts on that? Follow us right here follow us on Twitter. Sorry, follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Dynasty Battlefield TT. And you can also find our main handle. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jerry. You can find our main handle real quick at Dynasty Battlefield.
Yeah.
Jerry, I'll let you go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I was just trying to interrupt you, apparently. No, follow me as well at Dynasty Battlefield JT. You got a battle you want us? Drop it in the comments. We'll take a look at it.
Absolutely. See you on the next show.
See you on the next show.